You are now listening to Sir Inks The Experience Podcast, where we talk about anything and everything kink. Now, this podcast is only catered to those that are 18 and above and may not be suitable for work, or as we like to say, NSF. But remember, you can always listen to us during your private time. Hello, kinky and kink curious folk out there. My name is Sir Ink, and on this podcast, I want to go over something I have been thinking about, and I actually put a post up. My thought process is how regular guys are being swept up in the category of beta males. So, what do I mean? Regular guys are not the guys that are overtly demanding. They may not be dominant in a way of, you know, really having an agenda and commanding their woman in that way. But they're also not these beta males let a woman walk all over them. So these guys are in the middle. These guys that are in the middle, they're the frustrated ones, right? Because the dominant men normally want a woman who's going to be in line with what he's trying to do. He has that all mapped out, so on and so forth. And then the beta males are just the get along gang. They're going to go along with whatever the woman says, whatever she wants, she can get. He's there to really serve her. So the guys in the middle are guys that want families, want relationships, but they're not really taught how to be, that commander in chief guy, right? For whatever societal reasons, whether it be single parent, being raised by their mother, or whatever the case may be. Maybe they had two parents. Maybe their pop was this way, right? However, but they're not the guys that want to take a whole lot of orders from a woman, right? They're not there to just serve a woman. These guys are in the middle. They're probably nice guys who are very strong in their stature, right? They're responsible men. They're going to take care of the bills, take care of the family. They're not baby boys. You don't have to take care of them. And that way of having to, pay the bills and take care of them like you're their mama. They're not looking for a mama, but they're not necessarily commanding a woman either. But these are the guys that are in the middle that are very, very frustrated. They're very frustrated because they've never been taught how to get what they want out of relationships. And they do see relationships as 50-50. And they believe that women should have rights. They believe that women should have a voice. A woman should have her right to choose whatever she wants to do. They believe all that. And yet they're not, many of them are not winning. Many of them find themselves frustrated. Many of them find themselves with women that are looking for beta males because they're more of the alpha energy type, the more assertive type. And these guys find themselves frustrated because they may be in a relationship with a good woman, but they're like, why am I not getting my way? And, you'll hear guys say, oh, I have a honey to-do list. And guys say, what your wife wants, she gets. So, your wife is always right, things of that nature. And, guys, a lot of these guys, they're not beta males. They're not ones to be walked over. But they're the guys that are very, very frustrated. And I talk to these guys all the time. They're not guys that, they're not weak guys. They're guys that, they could be some gangster kind of dudes too, right? Where amongst men, they're very alpha, but amongst their woman, they're like, they're pushovers to a degree. They're not going to let a woman walk all over them, ruin their life, or be ultimately just used out. But they're also not the type that's going to really push back. So, for example, you have a lot of good guys. You have a lot of nice guys that are caught up in this, that's caught up in the middle, that they don't realize, like, okay, when you're setting a date, you make the arrangements. You tell her where y'all going, what she should wear, what time she's getting picked up, all those kind of details. A lot of times when guys meet women, and I've been guilty of this too, until I've had better training and I've gotten more mature. You call a girl up, you just mean like, well, where would you like to go? And that was just kind of common. It was kind of like, oh, you want to make a woman feel comfortable, especially on the first date. And so you're like, like, where would you like to go? You want to show them that you're willing to be flexible to appease them early, right? And as you get older, as I've matured, especially into the lifestyle and just in my manhood, I realized I need to say, look, we're gonna go out. But look, I'm gonna give you several choices. I'm gonna give you a couple of options so you can look at the menu, because nowadays you never know if people have, allergies to peanuts or whatever the case may be. So, or I'm gonna give you a couple of different choices so you can see the menu, because I don't want to take you somewhere where you're not comfortable eating, but I'm gonna face you with a couple of choices instead of saying, well, hey, where would you like to go? Because she may pick a spot that you necessarily do not like the food, or you don't eat that cuisine. So these are all the things that men are not necessarily taught. Like, look, you meet someone, tell them we're gonna go out, especially if you're spending money on the date. If you're going Dutch, that's a different thing. But if you're paying for everything, then I'm gonna give you the options of where I'm gonna pay. Of course, on a first date, I wouldn't recommend going somewhere like Chili's, IHOP, or Outback, but that might be feasible for some people. It depends on where you live. It depends on what your pockets is looking like. I live in a city of Philadelphia that is a restaurant town. So I can go to a really nice themed restaurant and pay Outback prices. With a meal for both meals and maybe one cocktail is not going to come up. It's not going to come over $75, right? So there's places that you can, in my city, that you can go, have great ambiance, great experience, and not pay a whole bunch of money. If you're worried about paying costs, if you're worried about how much things will cost for a date. And also, what I've realized is women are attracted to that kind of strength, but it takes energy. And we're not teaching men how to be strong, and teaching men that if you want what you really want, if you want what you feel as though you deserve, you're going to have to work for it. And not only are you going to have to work for it, you're going to have to set up a structure and when I say work for it, right, you're going to have to build yourself up to be what we call a man of value, a man that a woman would want to be with, a man that a woman would want to follow his direction, because she can see the results of his life is adding up to, he's a guy that I can trust. We're not teaching that enough with men. So when you teach a man how to build himself up, to get his money up, to get his a roof over his head, maybe a car to drive, some clothes to make himself presentable. Now we have to teach how to go about engaging women, getting a woman on your page. And once you do set a direction, there's a woman that agrees with that and she wants to be down with that, how you have to keep your foot on the gas. Sometimes you can let up a little bit, but for the most part, you can never take your foot off the pedal, and you certainly can never hand the wheel over. Can never hand the wheel over. You must keep your hands on the steering wheel at all times. You are the one that the relationship is going to depend upon. You are the foundation as a man, in my opinion, in my point of view. You are the foundation. You are the one who eventually will ask a woman for her hand in marriage. You are the foundation. In today's time, you see women asking men to marry them. That shit is corny. I'm not seeing women asking alpha males, dominant men, to marry them. Dominant men have that covered. So, again, we have to raise men to be more intellectually and emotionally intelligent when it comes to dating. And exactly what entails dating. A lot of times we just let guys go, like, oh, you met a nice girl, man, wish you luck. Well, we're not really sitting down telling our younger men, listen, how are you moving? What are you doing? Okay, you got her, but how do you keep adding on? Because a lot of times, you guys have heard me say this, and you guys can tell this results. You're like, a lot of men, a lot of people, but for the sake of this conversation, a lot of men are inherently lazy. If you make things so comfortable for a man, a lot of these guys will be lazy because their mamas took care of them. Their grandmamas took care of them. And I told you guys before that I've been hearing a lot of horror stories from women who dated men that were the baby of their families. So some of these guys have been disarmed early. They don't know how to put the foot on the gas. They don't know how to grab the steering wheel. They don't know how to lay out plans because all those things were always taken care of for them. They were coddled. So now they need their mama, their auntie, their sister, and their lover. But for men, dominant men, we understand you have to set a direction and you need to make sure that, okay, you set a direction, but you need to keep building on that. You need to continue to elevate because you can't sit still. Women have busy minds. You can never allow your woman to become bored with you. They can become bored if you become too settled. Now, I feel as though that I can be boring because my life is very set as far as the things that I do on a routine basis. How I work, where I work, because I'm stationary. I'm in a shop every day, certain hours. My life is very much programmed the same way. Now, I do travel at certain points in the year for business, and I also travel for myself, so that spices up my life a little bit. But with that being said, I still have to add things into that mundane routine to spice it up. But I'm cognizant of that. So I'm always looking for what can I do to spice things up. I make sure that when I get with my sub, like we might have a weekend where we chill. And then we have a weekend where we'll go out to dinner. Or we'll have a weekend that we go to the movies. Or we have a weekend that we go to a show. Or we'll travel somewhere, a couple times a year. You have to have a way to spice things up. You can never let things fall flat. And if a woman is always adding the excitement, after a while she's going to get bored with you and be like, it's not that necessarily that she'll look for another man, but then she could just fall out of, I won't say fall out of love with the man, but she can fall out of love with the life with the man and become disinterested. And when a woman becomes disinterested, sex becomes mundane. Pussy don't get wet like it used to. Affection isn't the same. And now, men that aren't on top of things, they start thinking, is it about another guy? A whole lot of things creep in. So to avoid those things, we have to go back to teaching men how to get out of that middle of being frustrated and not really getting what they want and move them more into that dominant, emotionally intelligent man that understands that they have to lay down a path and understand how a woman and what type of woman fits their scenario. And once they get that woman, how to keep her on board and how to keep things fresh and elevated. But what do you guys think? Am I right? Am I wrong? Do you see the relevance in this? Don't you? Maybe you didn't see it that way. Let me know what you think. You guys know how you can contact me, Sir INQ, on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. You can always email me at sirinq09@gmail.com. Until the next time, peace.